What's up, guys? Welcome to the line change. David Quadrelli is hanging out with us. There we go. Quads.
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for
Not
having me.
bad.
Sorry I'm a little late.
That's all good. I just got finished watching you guys, so it's all good.
That's where I was.
Let's see. Yeah, that's better. So thanks for coming on the show. Excuse me. I really appreciate it. Let's start off with well, how's your day going so far?
Oh, fantastic. It's a beautiful sunny day. Took the dog out, had Canucks Convo. I apologize. I don't have my studio yet. I just moved, so I'm kind of doing this from my kitchen right now, but I'll have a studio soon, so it'll look good next time I'm on the show.
Yeah, it's all good. Mine is a makeshift studio in my dad's old bedroom anyway, so it's all good.
Love it.
Yeah, I'm gonna start out with the question. When did you first become a Canucks fan?
Oh, years and years ago. So basically how it started for me was like a lot of people, you watch with a family member. For me, it was my grandpa. I've talked about this in the past as well, is my grandpa is an Italian immigrant. He arrived in Vancouver around the same time that the Canucks did. So he was watching broadcasts and understanding that there was a local team. He was a Canucks fan. I became a Canucks fan just from osmosis, I guess, just hanging out with him. And it started like that, and then I ramped up to the factor of like being on Twitter, kind of knowing the ins and outs beyond just like I'm gonna watch the games, I'm gonna now know contracts, all this sort of stuff, right? Like all the inner workings. That came for me around 15, 16 years old, and that was when I found the work of like Jason Botchford, and I started listening to TSN 1040 a lot. And that was really when it took off for me, when I started to really understand a lot more than just, you know, the simple stuff and just watching games and being a fan. And then it kind of took off from there for me to pivot into a career covering the team. And that was when I was 20. Yeah, well, 19, I guess I started. I was still 19 when I started, but yeah, now 6 years later, here we are.
Oh, awesome. To go off of that, when did you start Canucks Convo?
Well, actually, Chris Faber started Canucks Convo. So he started the show in the format of conversations with Canucks fans from Twitter. So that was a really interesting concept for the show. He started that in 2018. And on episode 6, speaking of Botch, Jason Botchford joined the show and retweeted it and really liked Chris. And that's when the show took off, because people came to listen to Botch, but then they realized, hey, the guy asking questions is also pretty good. In fact, that episode 6 had both Harmon Dial, who's now my co-host on the show and is a regular member of Canucks Conversation, had Harmon Dial and Botch on it. So that was one that it's funny that that's kind of how the podcast originally took off. But yeah, that was how the podcast started, 2018, Chris Faber in that format. After about 50 episodes, he reached out to me. I'd been on the show about 3 times. Again, I met him through Canucks Twitter. He's a groomsman in my wedding that's coming up in a few months here. Like, we're really, really good friends now. But that's how the relationship started. It was just me DMing a guy on Twitter and saying, hey, do you know how I could start writing about the Canucks? I think I know quite a bit, and I'm good at writing. I like writing. I was an English major at SFU at the time. So that's kind of how that started. And then Canucks Convo, yeah, he asked me to join for episode 60, I think, was our first one together. And we did that show together through multiple formats. We did the format that's currently in with YouTube live show. We started it, I would say, I don't know. I think that was 2020, because then we went to school together. He came out and we did the radio arts and entertainment program together. And then he left to go work for the Canucks before last season, 23-24. And that would mean that we worked together on the show for 3 years.
All right. Wow. Nice. And then what about, I'll tie into that. What about Canucks Army? When did that all start?
Yeah, Canucks Army is part of a company called the Nation Network. So Canucks Army started in 2009, because originally the Nation Network was just Oilers Nation. So they were fan sites. And now Nation Network has obviously expanded a ton, as you see. Like, we have Daily Faceoff, we have The Sheet with Jeff Merrick, we have all these names that you've now, are established names that you've heard of. But for Canucks Army, like, Canucks Army has so much history, and it's really interesting because a lot of the Canucks Army alumni went on to work in the NHL. Obviously, Thomas Drance, who's back in the market, went to work for the Panthers in PR. But like the whole saga of the computer boys, I could sit here and break that down for you for the next 45 minutes, but to save time, I won't. But again, Cam Strawn, Josh Weisbach, all these guys, Reese Jessup, all these guys that worked in NHL front offices. These guys were all at Canucks Army at one point, just offering really, really sharp analysis and a different way of looking at hockey, right? That was kind of the analytics boom of hockey. It's obviously very standard now to pay attention to natural statistic and analytics, but that was like kind of the boom that came with that in hockey, was kind of that early 2010s stage, and that was kind of something Canucks Army really capitalized on and made its identity around. So that's how Canucks Army started. I started writing at the site again in 2019. I started writing at the site, and in 2020, I became the managing editor of the site. And then in 2021, I was offered the role of editor-in-chief of the Nation Network, where I oversaw all of the sites. I still obviously work directly on Canucks Army. I produce content for Canucks Army, but now I provide guidance to all of the sites in the Nation Network on how to produce content, how to get results, all that sort of stuff. So now I'm in a bit more of a management position than I was when I started, but yeah, still writing about the Canucks, and definitely is the place I most want to be.
Yeah, you guys definitely give me a lot of content for your articles, so I very much appreciate that. And they're all very well written too, so top notch, in my opinion. Let's move away from hockey a little bit. What's your favorite baseball team? Because I hear you talking about baseball.
Seattle Mariners. Seattle Mariners are my favorite baseball team.
I was thinking it was, yeah, because I think I saw.
Are you a baseball fan?
Yeah.
Okay, who's your team?
Blue Jays and the Mariners. I like both teams.
Okay, so I like the Blue Jays too. And that 2015, like that 2015-16, obviously 15 was the one where it was like there's few moments when you're watching sports where you like actually feel chills. I'd say Rory winning the Masters was probably one of them, but Rory winning the Masters didn't do nearly what Jose Bautista's bat flip home run did in Game 5 of the ALDS did. For me, like that was like the peak of my sports fandom, was watching that moment live. And again, I don't know if you can swear, but all of the how long that inning was, I was just like sitting there, and I was like 15 years old at the time, and I'm watching this, and I was like, this is the best sporting event I've ever watched in my life. I'd never seen anything like it. Again, like the 2010 gold medal, it's different. I think it's different because it was like a rush of, oh my gosh, this just happened, and you're happy immediately. But with baseball, and that game in particular, there was just so much buildup, right? Like it was just anyways, I'm going off on a tangent, which I tend to do, but that 2015 ALDS was what like cemented me as, okay, I love this sport more than anything. I played the sport growing up my whole life, so I always loved baseball, but yeah, that was when I was at my highest of Jays fandom. But now, like, I watch, like, I have MLB Big Inning on every day. I watch every single team. There's very few teams I don't like, and I do like the Jays as well. But the Mariners, you're asking me about the Mariners. I've watched a surprisingly few amount of Mariners games this year, like first to ninth inning, which I like to do. I like to watch full baseball games. I've watched so few of them because the Mariners offense is just confusing me. Like I'm used to, we're going to watch a 1-0 game, which I don't love watching, but like I'll sit there, it's close. But like yesterday I tune in and it's the fourth inning and they're up 11-0. And it's just like, okay, I don't really want to watch a team go through the motions. You know what I mean? So anyways, it's weird being a Mariners fan right now because they're so much better than I thought they were going to be.
Yeah. I've always loved the Mariners, you know, back in the day from like, you know, Griffey Jr., A-Rod, Ichiro. That was around the time that I really first, I don't want to say fell in love with the Mariners, but really took notice of the Mariners and I used to play Griffey's Slugfest on the N64 back in the day too. So that was another thing too. Shifting back to Canucks, what's been your favorite Canucks moment?
Oh, that's a great question. Favorite Canucks moment of all time, or like since I've been watching them, or since I've been covering them?
It can be like of all time since you've been covering them. It can be whichever.
Okay, because I have two. So all time that I've watched live, not in person, I was watching it on TV, but that I've watched happen was obviously Slay the Dragon when Burrow scored that goal. That was the most, again, I talked about the Crosby gold medal goal. Like that was the most excited I ever was as a Canucks fan, was that goal. I was in person for Daniel Sedin's final game, or well, Daniel and Henrik Sedin's final game, but the point I'm making is that Daniel Sedin scores the OT winner against, I believe it was Rick Tocchet's Coyotes at the time. And that was one where I was just like, this is one of the coolest things I'll ever see in person. So that's one. And then my favorite since I've been covering the team is Quinn Hughes' first goal against the LA Kings. That was just one where I was like, okay, this is such a special player. This is such a special moment. And I don't know if everyone remembers this part, but it also ended with Trevor Lewis getting dumped to the ice by Luke Schenn because Trevor Lewis followed through on a hit on Quinn Hughes, and Schenn and Hughes were paired up on a pairing together. And basically Schenn was Hughes' bodyguard for those first 8 games he played in the NHL, or 9 games, whatever it was. First year he played in the NHL, down the tail end there, Schenn was his personal bodyguard. And I absolutely loved to see Schenn, even after the first goal, go right up to Lewis and just belt him down. I loved it. I thought it was great. So those two are probably what I'd say.
All right. Well, leading on to this next question, I think this one's pretty good. If you could change one thing in Canucks history, what would it be?
Oh, there's so much to choose from, right? There's so much to choose from. I mean, without the obvious of being like, oh, draft lottery odds. Like I would have loved, they were one ball off or one number off of Connor Bedard. I would have loved to change that one ball that needed to drop differently. I'm gonna stay away from that because that's a cop out. That's too easy of an answer. Change one thing in Canucks history. I mean, I'm trying to think of just a pivotal moment. I would change that they close out this series against Boston. There's so many to choose from, right? But you would want to do one that ends with them winning the Stanley Cup. I think so. I'm going to say, yeah, they just close out that game 7. That's the easiest thing to change in Canucks history. I know it's also kind of a cop-out, but yeah, I'm going to go with that one.
Yeah, that's the one that I would change for sure. Absolutely. I think a lot of Canucks fans would want to change that one for sure.
Yeah.
Got some people in the live chat here. We got Big Hog.
Oh, Big Hog Hockey. Nice.
Yeah. We got Jacob in the chat too, on repping Canucks Army. I'm actually repping my Canucks Army t-shirt that I got from the watch party.
Nice.
Yeah. Seems like Big Hog says, feel like I've seen this guy on the right before. Yeah.
That's awesome.
I think we have. And then
I gotta get in the chat.
He's like, yeah, hard to put a finger on it though.
Yeah, I gotta get in the chat. This is great.
Yeah. Oh, we got Skytrain Alfred.
Nice. Also, someone from the watch party.
Yeah, this is awesome. Yeah.
There, I found it. Now I'm in the chat. There we go. All right. That took me a second.
Right. But yeah, let's go ahead and just start talking Canucks.
Mm-hmm.
I loved your guys' take on Willander earlier. And I appreciate the shout out, by the way, on Canucks kind of maybe painting Willander as a villain. At least that's kind of what I'm getting at with the way how, hard they are, them playing hardball with his contract. And then just hearing that, they're not looking for the max for bonuses. Well, then how is he not signed yet?
I know, that's what I keep coming back to. It's just weird, right? Like it just feels weird that, and again, Harmon was much more eloquent with how he said it on today's show than I was. He made a good point that it's hard to come out, and we all agreed it'd be a great news story for a team that needs one right about now to say, look, we signed Tom Willander on an ELC. Tom Willander is going to the AHL. He's helping the Abbotsford Canucks in the AHL playoff run. Buy tickets, buy Willander jerseys, all this good PR, all that great stuff, only for them to maybe a month or two from now say, oh, by the way, we had to trade Tom Willander, right? And Harmon made a really good point about that today, that it's just, while it might be a good story right now to say, yeah, we just signed Tom Willander, that's also something that, the thing I keep going back to is like, this team is in the business of getting season ticket renewals and filling seats, right? You have to think, how does a season ticket holder feel about if they see, they just signed their top defense prospect and now they've just traded him? Like, you have to think about it from that lens as well. And that's the one I kind of look at and say, yeah, that one that one might be a tough sell to the old season ticket holders down at Rogers Arena. So it's an interesting one. At the end of the day, though, it is just a strange one.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've actually, not gonna lie, I've been kind of looking into season tickets. And yeah, that would definitely, put a halt for me, if I'm not gonna see, Quinn in a couple years, heaven forbid, or even like Willander, then you're not really selling me on the season tickets. But yeah, moving on, we got. Oh, I think Big Hog had an answer to that last question I had. He mentioned one thing he'd change is Canucks drafting Pasternak.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one.
Yeah.
But again, like, look, don't go up and get Mark Messier. There's one, right? Like, how many could we do here? Don't take Olli Juolevi with the pick. Like, we could do the last 10 years and come up with a list of at least 10, I think. And hey, Pasternak's in that conversation as well.
Yeah, I think I did a video on that talking about I think it was a McCann video. I was talking about Canucks bringing McCann back, and then while I was doing my research for that, I was like, oh, McCann was drafted literally right before Pasternak was, so we could have gotten like, what if we could have gotten Pasternak?
I know, it's crazy. It's honestly crazy. And this one is also from Big Hog Hockey. He said the Avalanche not drafting Makar and instead the Canucks pick him in 2017. That's a spicy one. That's a good one.
Ooh. Yeah, I like that one, Big Hog. That's a good one. Yeah. I may as well talk a little bit about Talkit. I did mention the other day that I was kind of mind blown by that coming out. I thought there was like a 50-50 he would come back, but I wasn't thinking like, oh, like at the drop of a dime, he's gone. Like I thought for sure there was a path for him to come back. And then hearing that he's not coming back, then hearing, the news about how it wasn't about money. It was seems like it was a personal thing, wanting to be closer to family, which is, all fine and good, more power to him. But it definitely caught me off guard. I was actually kind of hoping for the opposite, that they would announce him signing instead. I do have a bit of a theory that maybe he may have made his decision over the weekend and just opted to wait until Tuesday, as the elections were on Monday. So that's one thought I had. But I definitely feel what Rutherford was saying in his presser, and just looking at his reaction too, he looked stumbled by it. And I was the same way. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, that's the thing is Jim Rutherford comes out and starts it by saying, we're surprised. And he said, yeah, we have some bad news. He was open. It was bad news. They wanted him back. This was the guy that directed them in the right path for the first time in years last year. And look, Jim Rutherford's vote of confidence at the end of the year, where he talked about what a great job Talkit did despite the results this year. Like, that's the president of hockey ops. He knows what's going on inside that locker room. He knows what the inner workings of that team are. And hey, look, the JT Miller earliest Patterson stuff, it's all public now. That took a toll on Talkit, right? Like, that took a major, major toll on Talkit. And I think there's a lot of things that played into Talkit's decision at the end of the day, but I think it's not I don't want to sit here and say, oh, bad look for the Canucks, but it's unfortunate for the Canucks. They wanted him back, and he didn't want to come back. That is not great. They were willing to put up the money, it seemed, with the 5x5 reported offer. Would have made him the highest paid coach in Canucks history by a pretty considerable margin, I believe. And he turned it down. Like, he turned it down. They couldn't buy him. They couldn't sell him on being the Canucks head coach. And I think that's really discouraging if you're the Canucks, and if you're a Canucks fan as well. It was unfortunate news for the week.
Yeah, for sure. And it definitely makes you wonder about the offseason moving forward. Like, does this kind of change how the offseason goes, with Talkit being gone? Obviously, you guys mentioned on Canucks Convo talking about, like, whether or not trading Willander, and you mentioned Larkin. I 100% agree with you on that. I absolutely love the idea of that. I think I made a video on that talking about Larkin. I think he would be dynamite for the Canucks. And I believe I read somewhere that there's a history between him and Hughes. They were both playing at the University of Michigan, I believe. So that could maybe lure Larkin over. But the question is, of course, would the Red Wings want to part ways with Larkin? But it seemed like Larkin was not happy at all with the way the season went for the Red Wings, and it seems like not a lot of people are really happy with Stevie Y right now. So, your thoughts on that?
That press conference from Stevie Y where he's like, "Oh, I'm not gonna lie to you, I was daydreaming." It's like, holy smokes, man! Like, what are we doing here? People think Jim Rutherford press conferences are a problem for the Canucks. The Red Wings got their president literally saying, like, "Sorry, I just fell asleep with my eyes open here. Sorry." And really, that's a metaphor for the so-called Iser plan, right? In what's happened in Detroit. And Larkin, I know basically for a trade to happen, let's be real here, Dylan Larkin needs to be the one to kind of initiate it, right? He needs to be the one to say, "I'm done. I want out." He wasn't happy at his end of season press conference. Maybe he's cooled down. Maybe they've mended that relationship. But man, like, I don't know how great he's feeling with what the Wings did this season and what they're projecting to do next year. And like, what is the plan? What is the plan for this offseason? Because they have some prospects. Yeah, they do. But again, some of their guys haven't hit. And when that happens, you're all of a sudden in a pretty vulnerable position. And right now, I don't know where the Red Wings are going to go from here. Dylan Larkin's my guy for the Canucks. I think that's probably my dream trade target at this point, because I think he checks a few boxes in the sense of he'd be the second line center you need. And if Elias Pettersson can't bounce back, Dylan Larkin, like, he's good for about 70 to 80 points. I think that's fair to say at this stage in his career. So, like, that's decent production. It's certainly going to be more than what you're going to get out of Philip Hedl, who's currently your second line center. So I like that for them. He can play those matchup minutes as well. By all accounts, he's a good leader. I'd really like them to go out and get Dylan Larkin. I think he'd be a great trade target. But that's the thing. If he asks out and he's made available, there's going to be a lot of teams calling on Dylan Larkin. So it's going to cost them, but I like it. If you're looking for a top six center, I like Dylan Larkin a lot.
Yeah, for sure. And I know he has a no trade clause, but we also don't know what the teams that are on that trade NTC. Let's talk a little bit. I was watching a little bit of Locked On Canucks earlier. They were talking about John Cooper. And that's a name that's come up with the Lightning being eliminated yesterday. And what do you think about John Cooper being the head coach of the Canucks if he's made available?
I think he's a great name, and this team loves their names, right? Like, we know that they do love their names. And if the Canucks were willing to buck up for Tocchet, would they be willing to do the same for Cooper? I think, yeah, probably. It's probably doable in the eyes of ownership. I think they might. That being said, you could go get Manny Malhotra for a fraction of the cost. And I really like Manny Malhotra. I've been saying it for a bit now. I really like Manny Malhotra. I think he might be what this group needs to hear. I think you also have to think of it from John Cooper's perspective of what does he have to gain by becoming the Canucks head coach? And if there's uncertainty around Quinn Hughes, which, let's be honest, at this point there's no guarantees that he's going to be here long term. I don't know what the draw is for John Cooper. Like if you're the Canucks, right, and you go to John Cooper and say, "Hey, we want to make you the head coach." Aside from money, what's your draw, right? Like, goaltending. And Jim Rutherford was asked this yesterday, and he made a joke about the practice facility and the lack of a practice facility. I didn't have a problem with Jim making the joke, to be clear. But I think what that also illustrates is that there's not much beyond. We could have good goaltending, and that's a could as well because of the health issues with Thatcher Demko. We're gonna have Quinn Hughes for at least a year, like that's part of the draw. But beyond that, I just don't think there's that much. So I like John Cooper. I think John Cooper is a great coach. Don't think he's the best fit for the Canucks, and don't think that the Canucks are the best fit for him either. I'm Team Manny. Bring me Manny Malhotra.
Yeah, I'm pretty game on Manny, but obviously at the same time, with Manny, essentially cooking in Abbotsford right now, would you want to take that away from him? So that's something I've thought of. Yeah,
that's an interesting one. It's one Skytrain Elfring Canuck brought up in the chat as well. I default to what J-Pat said yesterday. I thought J-Pat was spitting when he was on our show, and the clips on Canucks Army, I retweeted it as well. But basically what J-Pat said was, like, some of the best NHL coaches, like the most tenured NHL coaches, aren't these guys who have been recycled, and I'm not calling John Cooper a recycled coach, but this carousel of coaches of just the same names. It's like, oh, well, obviously this guy's going to get the next job. They all get fired pretty often, it seems. So I don't necessarily agree. Manny's been on NHL benches as an assistant coach as well. He's been with the Canucks as an assistant coach as well. He's been in those markets. He's been with the Leafs, right? Like he's been in a pretty hot and heavy media market. I think he knows what he's getting himself into if he takes the job. I'm not worried about him getting promoted too early. Personally, I think if he feels he's ready, like that's the real thing, right? Is if he feels he's ready and the team feels he's ready, I think he's the no-brainer.
Yeah, Jacob in chat talking about J-Pat's quote, saying he made the point on Convo yesterday. Marty St. Louis is the 4th longest tenured head coach, and he's never coached anywhere before. That's a good point. And then talking about Bednar has some AHL experience, but that's it. Really, really good points. I mean, I'm all for Manny. Especially promoting someone within your system. And I think I mentioned this on Canucks Convo. Imagine if we got Manny Malhotra as head coach, Alex Burrows as like a assistant if he wants it, and then throw in the Daniel and Henrik, as part of the coaching staff as well. I think that would be quite the coaching staff for the Canucks, and I think it would be also a lot of us Canucks fans would kind of like salivate at that as well. From those 2010 2011 season, despite the outcome, we would salivate at that, and that would be like a dream coaching staff right there. What says you?
Well, I know people are going to scoff at that because people have already scoffed at it and said, oh, stop trying to just do the nostalgia play of 2011, right? Try not to do that. I disagree, and I'll tell you why. The thing that made that 2011 special, that 2011 team so special, wasn't just that, a bunch of great players. It was guys who lived and breathed being Vancouver Canucks, and they were proud to be Vancouver Canucks. I don't see a lot of players right now that are proud to be Vancouver Canucks. I don't see a lot of players that are out in the community. I don't see a lot of players that are doing what the Sedins did, both on the ice and off the ice. And I know that's a high bar. But it's one that the Sedins set, and it's one that guys like Bo Horvat met. It's one that all of their teammates in 2011, for the most part, all of those guys met that standard as well, because that was the standard set by the Sedins. I would love to see a new standard set for this team and this organization, top to bottom, right? And I think that's what they had in 2011 was a standard of excellence. And I think bringing back some people from that 2011 team, whether that be the players that are now coaches or whether that be some of the people that were maybe in the front office, maybe they are willing to come back. I don't know how many of them would be, but it's an interesting one. But I don't think it just comes down to just nostalgia play. I think it's more than that. I think it's guys who bled blue, who wore the crest with pride. And I'd urge everyone to go watch Kevin Bieksa's speech after morning skate to the Canucks locker room when he did his retirement game, when he played his final game, or not, he didn't play his final game. You know what I mean? He officially retired from the NHL by taking warm up with the Canucks. That one, I look at that one and say that speech where he talked about going out and doing extra stuff after practice, that's something that I want to see this team really adapt. And I think that can start with a good coach.
Yeah. Well, since you mentioned Bieksa, what about Bieksa being on the coaching staff? I don't know about a head coach.
I thought about it. Yeah, exactly. Like ideally, this is my ideal bench. Okay. You got Manny, you got Burrows, and you've got Bieksa. I think that's a light room, especially Burrows and Bieksa in the same room. Like that's a really light room, but also like demanding excellence, I think is what that trio would do. I think that's the trio. And then obviously the Sedins, I don't know if they want to leave their current roles, but I really like that. I like that trio a lot. For Bieksa though, like I would miss watching him on Hockey Night in Canada. And I also don't think he would want to leave Hockey Night in Canada, which I would completely understand. So I'm going to say that one's unlikely, but that's my dream bench is Manny, Burr, and Bieksa.
Yeah, that would be something. I did think about this is one I threw out. Trevor Linden, despite his, I want to say, fractured relationship with Francesco, but he could be. I know he's never coached before, but he was just someone who I thought of. It's like what you just said. He bleeds blue, or he bleeds the Canucks, and I think fans would really like if Trevor Linden came in.
Yeah, Linden. Okay, so like Linden's moved on. I think like he's got a young son now who we've seen him bring to Canucks games. He's obviously got the Club 16 Trevor Linden Fitness, and I think he's onto some different business ventures too. So I'm gonna say no because I think Trevor Linden just is done. I think he's done with hockey. I think he tried it. Didn't love it. I don't think he has any desire to go be a president for another team. I think he's just happy with where he is. So I'm going to say no. I don't think Trevor's going to be an option. I don't think Trevor wants to come back to the game. I don't think.
Yeah, I'm kind of feeling that too. It was just a name that I just spitballed out there. Really good from Jacob. He's saying, I learned that Mike Keenan installed a thermostat control in his office so he could crank the heat in the dressing room so the players would be uncomfortable. Times have changed. I did not know that.
I didn't know that either. That's really funny.
That is something. Yeah, go ahead.
It's like the most normal Mike Keenan story I think I've ever heard.
Yeah. I don't have a whole lot of Mike Keenan stories. I just know that I actually hated him. And so did my dad. I think my dad passed that on to me. He hated Messier too. So I'm firmly in that boat too, about hating Messier. Since we're kind of like rattling off players, what about maybe Kessler? Would he be part of the coaching staff?
I would assume Kessler's going to be one of those guys. Like he's got that U16 Little Caesars team. I would assume Kessler's one of those guys that wants to keep coaching his kid. Like, I think he's really liking it. I think he keeps talking about building the program and everything. I think he wants to stick with it. So I'm going to say they might be 2 or 3 years too early before Kessler wants to start coaching pros because he's got his son and I think he's really enjoying doing that.
All right. Let's talk. Trying to think of some other Canucks topics. We'll talk a little bit about Abby because I actually managed to catch that last game that they won. What was it, last weekend? It was pretty good. I was pretty impressed. That was actually my first time watching Abby. Obviously, they're not really available on TV, so I had to stream it. But no, I managed to catch that Max Sasson going end to end and then feeding it off to, I believe it was, I forget who it was, R.C. Baines and then to Nielsen. I was blown away by that sequence and just seeing how quickly Sasson moved up the ice. Like it completely blew me away. And I was sitting there thinking, why can't the, adult Canucks do that? Like where was that during this season? Obviously I know it's AHL, it's completely different game, but it definitely makes me think Sasson, I think he's going to be a big player, maybe next season, or at least in the future. I see big things for Max Sasson. What about you?
I really like Max Sasson's foot speed. Thing that I always wonder about is like just the hockey IQ. Like Harmon and I always joke about this. If you put like Linus Karlsson and Max Sasson into one, like you gave Max Sasson Linus Karlsson's brain and you gave Linus Karlsson Max Sasson's skating ability, I think you'd have a great bottom six winger. But I don't think Sasson has the smarts to play consistently in the NHL. I don't think he's quite at that level yet. Could he develop into it? Maybe. And then for Karlsson, I don't think Karlsson has the foot speed to play consistently in the NHL. So again, we'll see if either guy can kind of make those improvements, but like those are the drawbacks I see. And to answer your question, like I know you weren't saying why can't Sasson do that at the NHL level, but like that's the reason is it's harder to think the game when everything else is moving as fast as you in the NHL. Like Sasson's a good skater, but like he's not like a world burner by NHL standards. He's really, really fast in the AHL and he's in the upper tier of skaters in the NHL, but there's a lot more to it than just that.
Yeah, for sure. I think I just had a point and then I just lost it. Let me see if I can remember it. Correct. Crap. No, I forgot what I was gonna say.
Well, it happens
not
all
good.
the time.
Yeah. Oh, I think I just got it.
There you go.
Obviously with Tocchet being gone now, this might be maybe a little bit of a hot take, but this is just me. With Tocchet being gone now, and the way that Kuzmenko's lighting it up in LA, bring on Kuzi back home to Vancouver. That's just me being a really big Kuzmenko fan and just being blown away from that first season. But hey, seems like Tocchet was the reason why they had to, let Kuzi go. Tocchet's gone now. Bring on Kuzi back. Your thoughts on that?
I like it, and I've thought about it a lot because obviously he's putting up points. He put up a ton of points with Pettersson. You need to get Pettersson going. I will say this though, because this is one thing that I kind of think about is Kuzmenko one of these players who has a great first year with the team and then just can't figure it out in the second year? And would the rule apply if the Canucks re-sign him? Because really, if you sign him to a 1-year deal, it doesn't really matter. But like, look at Vancouver, great first year. Second year, not so great. Calgary, he gets traded to Calgary. He's awesome. People love him. He's on this 40 goal pace. And then he was bad the next year. Then they trade him to LA. He's great in LA. What's going to happen next year if he re-signs in LA? I'm scared. I'd have some worries about Kuzmenko, to be honest. But if you can get him for cheap, like that's the conversation, right? Is like, how much is the team willing to pay him? And are you comfortable at that line?
Yeah, true. You missed out Flyers. He had a brief run with the Flyers, but even when he had that brief run with the Flyers, he was doing pretty good. I mean, when he was initially traded to the Flyers, and I was like, oh dear, it's going to be like Tocchet 2.0 with Torts over there. And I think he only played like 5 games with the Flyers, but he still put up points in those 5 games. That also actually makes me wonder if Tocchet does go to Philly, what's that going to mean for Michkov? Because he's pretty similar to Kuzmenko, and I think I saw this somewhere. Someone was like saying if Tocchet goes to the Flyers, and Michkov doesn't really do all that well under Tocchet's system, could the Canucks try and maybe snag Michkov from the Flyers? But I think that was a bit of a hot take on there as well.
Yeah, that's getting way ahead of ourselves. I don't even know if Tocchet's going to go to Philly. Like, I know there's the connection from when he was a player, but like I look at that Philly team and I don't think that's a super appealing destination. I don't think. But yeah, I don't know. Like I think Tocchet can coach a player like Michkov though. I think he can, and I do really like Rick Tocchet as a coach. I don't know if he's going to go to Philly. I really don't.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. Looks like Elfrins wants Kuzi back, so he's on that boat too. I think it's in regards to Tocchet, I think it's between Boston and New York. Honestly, I think there's a good chance he could go to New York. I mean, Miller's there, so
and Boston, you got Zadorov, right?
Yeah, and I do feel as though with this whole thing with Tocchet, I think Clay was mentioning on his stream last night that I was a part of. He had a good point. I do feel as though the stuff with Tocchet may have started right around the time that they traded JT. I'm not speaking for Tocchet, but I feel as though he was not happy about, them trading Miller away. I mean, honestly, I wasn't really all that happy either, but it's just me. But I think that's maybe when this thing started, to kind of go downhill for Tocchet. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it was before that for sure. I think he was unhappy about it, but also I think he was in the same camp of I don't want to do any more meetings between these two players, and something needs to bend here, something needs to give. And Rutherford said at the end of media presser as well, he just said like we did what we had to do, and they had to make that trade. So I think Tocchet probably understood it. Did he love losing JT? No. Does he think Elias Pettersson's a world-class player? I don't think so. Do I think Tocchet believes that he could bounce back? I think there's a semblance of belief, but it's also coupled with the same thing all of us feel, and that's uncertainty whether that's going to actually happen. So, I think he liked coaching JT, but I also think he realized like they had to trade Miller at that point.
Yeah, for sure. I think I also saw a bit of a rumor. I'm going to say rumor because I don't know if it's, official or true, but something about when they were looking to trade PD, I think it was last season, and they were having talks with Carolina. Supposedly Tocchet went to them and said, trade, do it, trade PD to Carolina. Your thoughts on that little rumor? I haven't
heard that. I haven't heard anything about that.
Yeah, I think I just heard that like on Twitter on the other day. So I didn't really look too much into it. I was just like, oh, if that's true, not that I try and, read into rumors or anything like that. I try and if it's from a source like, Elliot Friedman, Dollywall, you guys, that's when I really look into it. But that was just something that popped up on Twitter that I was like, huh, interesting. But yeah, see if there's any more topics you want to go over. Yeah. Did you want to talk a little bit more baseball?
I mean,
How about that Blue Jays comeback win yesterday? I know this is a Canucks podcast, but
yeah, I mean the Jays are such an interesting team because coming back like that, I follow a few Red Sox fans as well, and they were pretty distraught about that. And I mean, Boston just has not had that closer position locked down all season. And I think I don't know if Liam Hendriks is still healthy, but anyways, yeah, they're in turmoil right now. I hope the Red Sox do well, but yeah, it's not great at the closer position.
yeah, for sure. And it seems like Jays signing Hoffman seems to be a win in their book, from what I've heard. I've actually not been able to actually watch a game yet. I'm still adjusting to the baseball times. I'm so used to like 7:00 start for hockey, and then baseball's on at like I think 4 for us. So I'm still adjusting to that, time difference for the game. So I haven't actually had a chance to actually like sit down and watch, 1 through 9. But I definitely missed out on a game yesterday. That's for sure.
Yeah, Hoffman's been like dynamite for them.
Yeah. I do have a second podcast actually for the Jays that I just started up on Sunday. So
nice.
Hopefully I'll get more into Blue Jays stuff during the off season. That's the whole point of the podcast, was to give me something to do for the off season. And so yeah, hopefully that'll kick things off. I do know the Jays are playing later today, so hopefully I'll be able to catch some of that.
Yeah, right on, man. Well, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Any final thoughts, or final things to say?
Manny for president. Just make Manny the new coach. Not actually the president of hockey ops, but I'm getting more and more on board with just bringing in Manny Malhotra. I want to see it, and I know they can't do it while he's still coaching the Abbotsford Canucks, but I think he's going to be a good coach for the Canucks. I hope they do it.
Yeah, Alfred with a little in the chat saying Dalton Varsho that catch a few days ago. Yeah, I saw the highlights from that catch. Wow, and he just came back from the IL, and you're already doing these catches, man. Like, take it easy.
Yeah, so funny.
Where can everyone find you?
CanucksArmy.com, Canucks Army YouTube channel. Yeah, those are the main places. Read all the work at Canucks Army, Rinkwide Vancouver as well. Yeah, that's it.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is the legendary David Quadrelli from Canucks Conversation and Canucks Army. Thanks again for doing this, man. I really appreciate it. This is great.
Too kind.
And hopefully we can appreciate it. Hopefully we can do this again soon.
Absolutely. Right on. All right. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks for